1,000 students attend John Cabot City Technology College in Bristol, and there are 75 staff to teach them.
The day is changing.
Today, the Faculty of Technology, Media and Visual Arts are holding a monthly departmental meeting. It's scheduled after school hours and will discuss forthcoming changes to schemes of work and plans for refurbishment of a workspace.
Right, let's get into it. Let's rattle on. Dramatic changes, obviously.
A pretty standard sort of meeting in any school, and by analysing it in some detail, we're going to try and identify the key factors needed for each person to be able to influence the others.
It just gives that flexibility.
To help us do this, we've brought in an expert in the arts of persuasion and influence, Terence Mauri. He'll be viewing a video of the meeting with staff and using it with them to help tease out how best to ensure everyone can make an effective contribution.
And we all have something to say. But I do think
Terms project, no problem at all.
Nathan Jenkins, head of faculty, opens the meeting and swiftly gets down to business.
Before you go on, can I just show you all exactly how I want it planned and laid out and emailed back to me and so forth? Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it.
Just look at the screen a sec. Oh, not sleep. Right, what I'm going to send you guys is a folder with the blanks in it. The blanks will contain a scheme of work overview, an assessment objective overview, notes and guidance for teacher overview, and this page. Right?
Terence asked Joanna Postlethwaite, head of food and textiles technology, and Dominique Deloulas, a design and technology teacher, what they thought of Nathan's start to the meeting.
The fact he got up and moved kind of meant the meeting started rather than we're all sitting there gossiping about what's going on. And so I suppose it was a good way of starting it rather than actually sitting there going, right then, come on, you know, order everybody.
Yes.
So it sort of opened it a bit more formally and showed that I'm doing this and this is what we're starting.
The fact that he had a video prepared and resources prepared for us to look at gave us something visual and was much better for us to start the meeting with.
I felt perhaps that I came across a little bit forceful. I did need to get what I needed to get, ultimately. Yes. So I did need to get that point across. However, perhaps I should have had something, it felt a bit disjointed with me moving around, looking back at it.
Okay.
Perhaps some resources on the table to hand might have been a little bit easier. But I did need to illustrate that point, and I did need to get achieved what I put forward.
Back in the meeting, Peter Simmons, head of design technology, asks for new ideas on project work.
Year 10 projects are going to change. Okay, they are going to change. Surprise, surprise. First of all, we want to go down the route. We want to take out the pizza box, okay, the graphics-based one, and we're going to put that into a point-of-sale display. What I would like you to do, as well as a CAD/CAM project, which we'd like to implement, is come to the next meeting with some ideas for these projects.
What advice would you give to people to ensure that they get their message across in a clear, influential manner?
With regards to that clip, when I was speaking there, I'd obviously had the agenda a few days in advance. I knew what I needed to say. And to put it across, I knew exactly what words to use.
Yes.
For the people in my department to understand it.
Yes.
Again, knowing your audience, knowing the group of people around the table, how to pitch.
What about body language or non-verbal communication? Where does that help facilitate effective influencing?
We are relaxed around each other. The majority of body language is quite open. We're there, we're listening, we're relaxed, we're chomping on a bit of chocolate. You know, it influences people that way, absolutely, and it's important in a meeting. You know, to be sat there like this, telling people this is how we're going to do it.
Yes.
Clearly isn't going to work.
Yes.
It's going to raise people's backs, and you're not going to get on.
What did you think of Peter's approach to influencing the rest of the group?
I think the thing with Pete, because he is head of technology, most of the time he's just Pete, the teacher you work with, but at faculty meetings, when he does have to take on his role of responsibility, he changes and he sort of becomes that person, and I think a lot of it is in his voice. So he suddenly becomes much more authoritative, and his whole mannerism and stuff, he sort of clicks into head of tech,
yes,
for when he's introducing stuff, so he can click between the two, which is very useful to work with.
He forewarned us about what he wanted to come with to the next meeting, which is obviously very helpful. Not only through the meeting, he emails us all the time to warn us about what's going to be at the next meeting, what we need to bring forward. So his role was very supportive and allows us to be more involved in the meeting.
A really important point mentioned by Joe, which is the tonality in his voice. And certainly for good authoritative influencing to take place, there's a physical side, which is what you're doing with your body language, the vocal element, but also the mental side. How much clarity have you got on what you're saying as well? And this is a really good example of Peter delivering that.
Bring some ideas of what we can do.
So Terence's point is that having influence in meetings isn't just a matter of how your body language affects others, but also how clearly you convey your purpose and expectations as well. Next up to view the video is technology teacher Paul Jenner.
And let's say, for example, that a teacher is going to have to influence people within the meeting. What sort of advice would you give that person to ensure that they get their message across really clearly?
I think you have to be positive. I think you're trying to influence a point. I think it's important to listen during the course of the meeting. I think it's important that you try to get your point across. They understand exactly what you're trying to say, but you give them the opportunity to respond. And if there's any criticism, it has to be constructive criticism, because you want people to respond. You want people to communicate within that meeting.
Certainly, good influencing requires levels of trust, rapport, mutual understanding, and therefore sometimes it's important to start lobbying people, as it were, or building a respectful relationship even before you get to the meeting.
Absolutely, I think that's very, very important.
Excellent. I quite fancy putting in some nice sexy curvy glasses.
Armed with that advice, it's likely that any individual will be a more effective participant in any meeting, and participation is what it's all about.
No, it might be quite nice. So, I want you to have a look at them and throw them back at me.
Just saying about the textiles room, rather than having the workbench facing out the window again, having the stations so that you can see the whiteboard.
Like we've done with the fingers there.
Yes.
Yeah, but you just have them where they sit in them, the sewing machine's there, and it also means they're all facing
the
same way.
screen.
You can see what's going on.
I've actually seen in a catalogue that I've been looking in some really nice sewing machine workbenches.
That's what I had before. I had 9 round the side.
Yeah, that sort of shape so that you can. Yeah.
Really good example of open discussion, lots of participation. It is the end of the day, it's 4 o'clock, you've got an hour, people are tired, fatigue can set in. What steps do you take to keep people's energy levels up so that they are participating effectively?
Well, I think one of the first things is moving it along, keeping it snappy, not lingering too long on one point or allowing it to wander too far.
We're very lucky because we do know everybody who's sat around that table, and we have done for some time, bar one person. We know all those people do like to eat chocolate at the end of the day, and as an incentive, Nathan quite often throws some chocolate around the table just to keep them going a little bit and just keep them chatting.
It's a key point regarding the chocolate, because it's so enticing and very, very tempting. Research indicates that the type of food that you eat affects your quality of cognition, as it were, your quality of concentration levels. Any viewpoints there on anything else that you could do differently to raise people's concentration levels even more and make them healthier?
Yeah, we could offer mineral water, we could offer fruit, vegetables, whatever you like. As I said, we do know them and we do know what they like, and it seems to work with these guys.
Absolutely, and I think, everybody enjoys a bit of chocolate every now and again, and it relaxes people, it puts them in a good mood, and and it's also something that isn't too distracting during the meeting.
How do you manage your energy levels, certainly at the end of the day, when you still have to be there to participate and contribute to these meetings?
It is very difficult at the end of a very long day, after 10 lessons, to join in with the meetings and be involved and remember what has actually happened. I think you just, once you've been here for a while, just sort of get into that mindset, and it's just something you take on and you have to take on, because if you don't, it won't get you anywhere.
Yes.
So it is tiring, but you've just got to take it on.
Literally get on with it.
As much as possible gets done by email.
Yeah.
And Nathan will email us stuff to give us information, so that our faculty meetings are much more proactive rather than information sharing, which a lot of meetings often are. So I think that compensates for the time.
Great. Certainly in terms of some general tips, managing your stress levels, going outside for even a couple of minutes to breathe in some fresh air can really boost your concentration levels and get you more focused for that last minute meeting. Certainly in terms of what you eat as well, your diet is key. I noticed that there were lots of chocolates on the table. One idea might be to replace that with fresh fruit and mineral water, so that you're really recharging your batteries at the end of the day as well.
I don't know, have we told everybody this? Said he's doing GTP for us next year. He's going to train as a teacher.
Another one.
Great news. So,
Halfway through the hour-long meeting, Nathan Jenkins shared some good news. Sadie Bartlett has recently moved from department technician onto the graduate teacher training scheme, but is making the announcement at this point the best time to do so.
In terms of news that's occurred during the week, promotion, change of position, what do you think is best practice in terms of when to announce that to the rest of the group?
I mean, should it be at the front?
Well, it's a good question, and certainly here we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the attendees. Sometimes they may feel undermined or not recognised, depending on their unique personality. So it's an important point to be aware of. And the rule of thumb here is, as you do, know your people, know their idiosyncrasies and different personalities. Some people are more sensitive than others. And from their perspective, they might feel, well, this is important to me. It would have been nice to have had it shared and announced as a sort of, a positive way of recognising somebody at the beginning. The tone that you set can really influence people's mindsets and motivations. And there's nothing like sharing good news at the beginning to get everybody into a positive frame of mind immediately, rather than potentially letting some people lag for a little bit.
After observing the meeting in its entirety, Terence Mauri has some final words of advice on how to maximise the potential of influence.
Certainly in terms of development, a good meeting happens through planning and design. It doesn't happen through accident. You can't take a leap of faith approach. So what they need to do differently in future is invest more time in a clear structure. People need to know the priorities of the meeting, how long it will take. In terms of headline news, good news, share that with the group at the beginning to really create a positive environment for the meeting to take place.